Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. There's two words that are getting thrown around these days, and honestly, I think they're both ridiculous. First are the red pillars. Oh yes, they're a special bunch indeed. They see through the government's lies. They're going to make you realize the truth, brother. And when they're finished with you, you're going to realize everything is a sham. And there's the woke people. Oh, I'm so sympathetic to the people in Africa because they don't have water. Now, admittedly, both intentions are good. Both people have the purest desires in their hearts. But they wear these badges of cluelessness on their chest, trying to claim that they're one step above everybody else. You know what? You're all being played. I don't claim to be anything other than an observer of human nature. You know what, red pillars? You're onto something. You know, the good old Matrix scene where you take the red pill or do you take the blue pill? You're onto something. There's a lot of shady stuff going on in the world. There's no question there was mysterious things happening at the JFK assassination. There are still questions surrounding 9/11. Nobody with an ounce of sense is willing to brush that under the table and say, oh yeah, government as usual. No, there's something there. Is there an international worldwide conspiracy like David Icke proposes? And I'm not trying to bash David Icke, I'm just using a popular example. Are there lizard people? No. Pretty unlikely. The evidence suggests against it. Woke people are just people that treat other people with the respect they deserved, except they expect to be recognized for that exact same respect. Look at me, I'm treating people like humans. Jeez. When I go grocery shopping, when I go for a walk down the street, I'm not conscious of race. I'm not conscious of anything other than, hey, that's Jane. There's Bill. There's, whoever the heck else it is. I don't need to bring victimization into my life to make my life special. Now, anybody who went through high school and university, but this is covered in high school, at least it was when I was going through it, is aware of the Hegelian dialectic. Hegel proposed that you would get a thesis, which says X is true. Then you get the antithesis, which says X is true, but Y is true. They have a conflict and produce a synthesis. The two have come together to create something greater. Now, this was used a lot in theoretical communism because practical communism, practical socialism has never existed, only totalitarianism. But that's what we're seeing here. The red pillars were really super active up until about 2015. Wonder what happened that year. Then they militarized. And you get like the Proud Boys who consider themselves beyond red pillars. Yep. They leveled up from red pillars and now they're going to make the changes they want. The woke people are gearing up for much the same. They're a little more peaceful in their protests, but they can be preachy and annoying. So can the red pillars, but let's be honest, the woke people, when they try to shove things down your throat, and I'm not saying anything about what they're standing up for. I have no problem with the 2SLGBTQ plus. Is there one or two plus at the end? Anyways, and please, that community, can you please come up with an easier acronym? I'm trying to be woke. I'm trying to support you. And yeah, you need to shorten that thing so we know what you're saying. Come up with a term for the spectrum and leave it, because you add anything more in there, no one's going to use it. Respect you, respect your struggles, respect everything you go through. But yeah. The curious thing is red pillars doubled down and they went way too far to the right. You do find left-wing conspiracy theorists. It's just they're so buried under the weight of right-wing conspiracy theorists, conspiracy fact, conspiracy, whatever you need to make you feel good in that category. I'm not going to get into it. And the woke people have doubled down. Now, among the good things that they've done, they've changed a lot of sports team names that, quite frankly, were offensive in the 1980s. The 80s were not exactly known as a decade of tolerance. They've made people aware of things, little social injustices that probably would have gotten buried if not for them. They've also committed some pretty heinous crimes. I've mentioned this before. If you're knocking down statues and defacing public monuments, there's a much better way to go about that. All you need to do, get a little plaque, put it beside it, and this person won this battle and this, that, the other thing. And on the side, you can see, let's use George Washington. George Washington, he freed the United States from Britain, even though technically he didn't. That's another story for the future. He did all these things. He put a little plaque beside it. He also owned over 700 slaves, which was 3/4 of his hometown. He was a slave trader. He bought and sold them. So, yeah, let's not mindlessly idolize this guy. Let's put all the truth out there. You know what? If you have to have an extra long inscription, that's what we need to do. And I'm picking on George Washington. There's a whole list of people that I could pick on here. And that is the synthesis between your red pillars and your woke people. Let's recognize it all. Not that hard to do. Heck, my city had the money to put a big sign up near City Hall with our town's name on it. Really? This was a higher priority than, say, taking the drug needles and condoms out of the parks. That's what got the parks and rec money. And it's annoying for me, but it's the city name, so I can see it. Whereas we have a couple streets that honestly need to be changed. These things are relics from the 40s, and the 40s, again, not known as a decade of tolerance. This is where we're going to go with the Hegelian dialectic, if we accept that the red pillars and the woke people are going to come to a conflict. Now, as always, the Silverlight Show does not support violence except in extreme circumstances and self-defense. And then, yeah, I prefer if no violence happened, but you got to protect yourself. If you don't protect yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. Best not to engage, best to get out of the situation. Sometimes things happen. We get it. There is a conflict brewing. Now, some people, the red pill side especially, have this fantasy, and I use the word fantasy on purpose, of this big revolution in North America. And they believe, as everybody who wants to start a revolution does, they believe they're going to win. The left side is also preparing for a conflict, the woke people. They're hoping it stays academic, but there's more than a few radical woke people out there, veering almost into terrorist territory. That's probably going to get this video demonetized, but, take 0 away from 0, you still get 0, so it's not going to affect me that much. Now, the question is how this dialectic is going to play out. Putin was a really good example for a number of years of the benevolent tyrant. Everybody knew he had the power. Everybody knew he was going to be in charge until the day that he passed on, but he's lost so much power recently. And with that power, he's less able to influence world events. It's to his benefit to have us at each other's throats. It's to his benefit to have people in the United States questioning each other. You know what? China is in the middle of it too. But the United States does the same with them. There was a joke in the 80s that if you needed money for something, just tell the United States that you were fighting Soviets and they'd give you something out of their military budget. The quiet person in all of this, that kid off to the side, he's pretty tough, he's quiet, and he's just sitting there licking his lollipop, watching everybody go at it, is the most populous nation in the world at present, India. All those places that got outsourced to China, guess what? India picked them up. All those offshore stuff, India has been really getting into that section of the market. They're quietly building the service economy that we were promised back in the 80s and 90s. And they're getting started on it. They're making it a real thing. So when the next wave of manufacturing goes out, and Vietnam is picking up manufacturing jobs, start looking at the stuff. Made in China is ubiquitous, but it's starting to fade because the Chinese people don't want to work in horrible labor conditions. They would like some of the luxury that they've been promised their whole life. And parts of China are becoming more and more capitalist. The states that are not allowed to use capitalism are feeling the pinch. And again, in China, you're seeing the Hegelian dialectic play out with the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie, the poor versus the rich. And those get divided along provincial lines. This is how it all happened before. It will all happen again. The scary part about the Hegelian dialectic is you never really know when it's going to kick off. And hopefully, again, it can be worked out along academic grounds. There are those that keep stockpiles of weapons and ammunition. It's people like me that keep their ammunition in their heads. I have ways to defend myself that involve physical nature. I'm a former soldier. I have certain things I can do, but at the same token, I'm not dumb enough to think I can overthrow the government with guns. See, the governments of the world have tanks and APCs and helicopters. So the way that you're going to fight most of the time is through the election ballot. So these people that are fantasizing about rising up and marching on, whether it's Parliament, whether it's the White House, Capitol Hill, whatever you have, they're going to find out that they're not so successful. Violence is never the answer. We don't know what the question is, but we know violence is not the answer. So, keep watching this dialectic, because, like I said, you've got the red pill people on one side that despise the government, but yet are so willing to cling on to anybody with a message, especially a right-wing one, and the left woke people who are willing to get offended over everything, and both sides have been equally destructive. I can only wonder what the actual synthesis will be. I hope it'll be, hey, let's take a throwback, go back to the 80s where we treat people not according to the color of their skin, but the content of their character. Ever heard that before? We heard it a lot in the 80s and the 90s. That's why our generation, Generation X, and a wee bit of Generation Y, still practice it. And it's so simple. How did we get away from that into this present world where racism and entitlement are back to being in charge? So, do what Silverlight does. Don't worry about being woke. Don't worry about getting the red pill so that you get the information. Keep an open mind. That's all I'm saying. Don't judge somebody on what you think they are. Learn about them. Is that so hard? I don't think so. But that's just my lonely opinion in between these two extremes. With that, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the button down in the comments that will alert you every time we upload a new episode. And we hope you have a fantastic day.